It was just another quiet afternoon in the small town of Clearwater, nestled between rolling hills and endless stretches of pine forest. The sun dipped gently in the sky, casting long shadows across the golden fields. 13-year-old Caleb Mason wandered through the meadow behind his house, a worn backpack slung over his shoulder, his eyes scanning the horizon for something, anything interesting. Caleb wasn't like the other kids in town. While others were glued to their phones, or chasing each other through dusty roads on bikes, Caleb liked solitude. He preferred the whispers of the wind, the rustle of dry leaves, and the distant cry of birds over the noise of people. His father, a forest ranger, had taught him how to track animals, recognize bird calls, and read signs in nature from a very young age. His mother, a quiet schoolteacher, had passed away 3 years ago, and since then, Caleb had found comfort in the wild. That day, the sky felt heavy. The wind had shifted direction, carrying a strange chill that didn't match the summer air. Caleb stopped in the field, his eyes catching movement up in the clouds. A hawk, its wings were wide, majestic even, but something was wrong. It was flying, low, unsteady. Caleb squinted. The bird flapped wildly, tilted to one side, and then, he began to fall. He dropped his bag and sprinted forward, not thinking, only reacting. The hawk spiraled, tumbling like a leaf caught in a storm. And then, as if guided by fate, it crashed softly almost perfectly onto Caleb's shoulder. He winced at the sudden weight, but didn't move. The hawk didn't attack, didn't claw, didn't flap. It just stayed there, shivering. Its feathers were torn, one wing bloodied and limp. Caleb could feel its heartbeat, fast and erratic, right next to his neck. His own heart raced in response. He didn't speak, just slowly knelt down, careful not to startle it. The hawk looked at him not with panic, but with a strange calm. Its golden eyes locked onto his. Caleb reached into his backpack and pulled out an old towel he used for sitting on tree stumps. Gently, he wrapped the bird and held it close to his chest. Back home, his father raised an eyebrow when he saw the bundle in his arms. A hawk, his dad asked, setting down his coffee mug. It just landed on me, Caleb said softly. I think it needs help. His father, used to dealing with injured animals, helped Caleb clean the wound. They discovered a small metal dart lodged near the wing, definitely not natural. Someone had shot it. They removed the dart carefully and dressed the wound. Caleb stayed with the bird all night, refusing to leave its side. He named it Arrow. The next morning, Arrow was still weak, but he looked stronger. Caleb had a small cage from when he once tried to nurse a squirrel back to health, and he placed Arrow inside, lined with blankets and bits of meat. He watched the hawk eat, slow but determined. Days passed. Caleb went out less and less, choosing to spend his free hours reading beside Arrow, talking to him about his mother, the woods, school, anything that came to mind. He swore the hawk was listening. One morning, Caleb opened the cage door, not expecting anything, but Arrow stepped out onto Caleb's arm. The hawk flapped lightly, testing his wings. Caleb walked outside, the sun bright and warm. Arrow lifted his wings fully, looked at Caleb one last time, and flew. Caleb didn't stop watching until the hawk vanished over the trees. 3 weeks went by. Caleb missed him, but he was happy, knowing Arrow had returned to the wild. Then, one late afternoon, something happened. Caleb was walking near the stream in the deeper part of the forest, the place his father told him not to wander alone. The sky had turned gray, the air heavy, with the scent of coming rain. He was about to turn back when he heard it, a screech. He looked up. Arrow, the hawk, circled above, crying out sharply, then diving low, brushing past Caleb's shoulder. Arrow, Caleb whispered, his eyes wide. The hawk circled again, then flew, ahead, pausing, circling again, as if waiting for him. It didn't feel random. It felt like a message. Caleb followed. The hawk led him deeper into the woods, past places Caleb had never explored, through thickets and brambles, over fallen logs, across the rushing stream. It was getting dark fast, but Arrow stayed visible, a dark shadow guiding him like a compass needle. Finally, they reached a clearing. There, nestled under twisted roots, was a rusted metal hatch in the ground. Caleb stared, breath catching. The hatch had strange markings on it. It looked ancient but modern at the same time. He knelt and brushed off the dirt. Locked. He turned to Arrow. The hawk stood silently on a low branch, watching. Caleb hesitated, then looked around and found a thick stick. Using all his strength, he jammed it into the latch and pushed. Click. The hatch creaked open, revealing a staircase leading down into darkness. He stepped back, his heart pounding. What is this? Arrow let out a soft cry. Not a warning, but encouragement. With trembling hands, Caleb pulled out his phone, turned on the flashlight, and began to descend. The air inside was cold, musty. The stairs groaned under his weight. He counted them 20, 30 steps. Finally, he reached the bottom. A metal hallway stretched out in front of him. Old wires hung from the ceiling. Lights, long dead, lined the walls. And at the far end, a door. He walked slowly, trying not to make a sound. He reached the door. It had a keypad. Caleb frowned. How was he supposed to get in? Then he noticed something. Etched into the wall, beside its faint but readable M.S. Owen, his last name. He typed it in. The door clicked. Light flooded the corridor. The room inside was filled with computers, maps, strange machines. It looked like some kind of research lab. Dust covered everything, but it was intact. At the center of the room, a glass case. Inside it was a glowing crystal, pulsing with faint, blue light. Caleb stepped closer, drawn in like a moth to a flame. Suddenly, a monitor lit up. Subject Mason confirmed. His name again. Arrow landed beside him, calm and composed. Caleb's mind raced. What was this place? Why did it know him? How was Arrow part of it? He didn't know yet, but he knew one thing for sure. His life had just changed forever. The next morning, Liam woke up early, his thoughts still tangled with the image of the hawk from the day before. He rubbed his eyes and peered out the window, half expecting to see the bird waiting for him, but the skies were empty. Just as he was about to turn away, a sharp cry echoed from the tree line. He dashed outside in his pajamas, heart pounding, and there it was, the same hawk. Its injured wing tucked close to its body, perched on a low fence. As soon as Liam stepped closer, it hopped down, limping slightly, and looked right at him with those intelligent eyes. Without understanding why, Liam felt a deep pull in his chest. He held out his arm, and to his amazement, the hawk leaped up onto his shoulder again. From that moment on, the bond between them deepened. Liam named the hawk Ash, after the faint gray speckles around its eyes. Every day, Ash would arrive just after sunrise, and perched near Liam's window or on the branch of the elm tree beside their shed. Liam would bring scraps of chicken, clean water, and bandages from his dad's old hunting kit. He studied videos online about birds of prey and how to treat wing injuries. He even started sketching Ash in his journal, tracking the hawk's healing progress with dates and diagrams. But what puzzled him most was how Ash never tried to fly away. It was as if the hawk was waiting for something, or leading him somewhere. Over the next few weeks, the connection between Liam and Ash became something the entire neighborhood whispered about. His teachers noticed Liam was more focused at school. His bullies kept their distance. And even his mom began to smile more, watching her son finally seemed hold out one afternoon, while Liam sat beneath the elm tree, reading about animal navigation. Ash suddenly launched from the branch above and swooped low over his head. Startled, Liam looked up to see the hawk circle once, then dart into the woods. Behind their home, Liam froze. The hawk didn't come back. After 5 minutes, then 10, then 20, a strange feeling crept into his chest, not of fear, but of invitation. Without fully understanding why, he stood, threw on his hoodie, and followed the path Ash had taken. The woods were thick, overgrown with years of brush, but Liam knew the terrain well. He used to explore here with his dad before the divorce. But today felt different. About 15 minutes in, Ash appeared again. Perched on a low rock, it let out a single cry, turned its head, and flew further in. Liam followed. Each time he got close, Ash would fly a few feet ahead, never too far, always just enough to guide him forward. The trees grew denser, the light dimmer. Branches snapped beneath Liam's boots as he made his way deeper than he'd ever gone before. Suddenly, he stumbled into a clearing. A narrow cave mouth sat carved into a moss-covered hill. Ash landed on a fallen log beside it and gave a soft, almost cooing cry. Liam hesitated. The air was cooler here. He could feel it in his skin, smell it in the earth. It was like stepping into a different world. He crouched down near the entrance, peered inside. Darkness. And then just barely a faint glimmer, like light bouncing off glass. He pulled out his flashlight, heart racing, and stepped in. The inside of the cave wasn't large, but it was unlike anything Liam had seen. Old carvings etched into the stone walls, some depicting birds, others strange symbols. There was an ancient-looking box tucked into the corner, weathered but intact, and in the middle of the cave lay something even stranger, a perfectly shaped feather, deep red, almost glowing. Ash cried again, perched at the mouth of the cave. As if urging Liam forward, he moved closer to the box. It was wooden, locked with a rusted clasp, and covered in dust. But when he touched it, it clicked open like it had been waiting for him. Inside, there were papers, maps, a leather-bound notebook, worn with time, but full of neat cursive writing. The pages were dated most from the 1930s. The notebook spoke of a hidden sanctuary where hawks of a rare bloodline lived, said to have been guardians of a sacred forest. Their instincts were unmatched. They guided lost travelers, protected villages from invaders, and some believed they were even capable of choosing a bonded human, someone who could sense things ordinary people couldn't. Liam sat there, stunned. Was Ash one of them? Suddenly, the hawk let out a sharper cry. Liam turned fast, was no longer perched, it was circling above, wings stretched wide, eyes locked on something in the trees. Then Liam heard it too. Voices, heavy, footsteps. Someone else was coming. He shoved the notebook into his backpack, quickly covered the box with nearby leaves, and backed away. Just as he reached the edge of the clearing, Ash dove low and landed back on his shoulder. The hawk's body was tense. Whoever was coming wasn't friendly. Liam ducked behind a tree and held his breath. Two men emerged through the brush. They wore dark clothes, had utility belts and walkie-talkies. One of them held a tracking device. Liam caught fragments of their conversation. Last sighting was near here. Can't let the kid reach the sanctuary. The Hawks tag must be leading him. Liam's blood ran cold. These men weren't hikers. They were following Ash. And they knew about the sanctuary. He didn't wait. He slipped through the trees, ducking low, following the trail back the way he came, Ash still on his shoulder. Branches whipped at his face. Roots tried to trip him, but he didn't stop running. Back at home, he slammed the door shut and locked it. His mom came rushing in, startled. What happened? Liam, are you okay? He couldn't explain. Not yet. He just looked out the window, clutching the notebook tightly in his arms. Ash sat quietly on the sill. That night, Liam read every page. The history of the Hawks, their connection to ancient myths, the mysterious people who tried to capture them for profit, the Guardians, a secret group once assigned to protect the sanctuary, and on the very last page, written in faded ink, the Hawk will choose its human, not by chance, but by heart. When the time comes, the child and the creature will find the sanctuary together. Liam closed the book and looked at Ash. The Hawk stared back. Neither of them blinked. The journey had only just begun. The days following Liam's discovery in the cave were filled with both wonder and fear. Every minute he wasn't in school, he spent buried in the old journal or watching the woods from his bedroom window, hoping those men wouldn't return. But they didn't. Not yet. Not yet. Ash continued to visit every morning, sometimes bringing small objects in its beak feathers, smooth stones, even an old silver key. It was as if Ash was training him, preparing him for something bigger. Liam had never felt more alive, more chosen. At school, things had changed. His teachers noticed his sudden focus. He asked questions in biology about avian behavior, in history about old myths and civilizations. His bullies left him alone, partly because of the Hawk, but mostly because Liam had found a quiet confidence that no one could explain. But Liam knew that something deeper was shifting. Then one night, it happened again. A soft tapping on the window woke him. He rubbed his eyes, expecting Ash, but it wasn't the Hawk. It was a man. Tall, dressed in a forest green jacket, a leather satchel slung over his shoulder. He had silver-streaked hair and sharp, thoughtful eyes. Liam's heart raced. The man raised a hand and gestured for him to stay quiet. Then, he pointed toward the woods. Liam's instincts screamed to run. But something in the man's eyes said, trust. He crept outside, careful not to wake his mother, and met the stranger at the edge of the trees. Before Liam could ask a question, Ash swooped down from the darkness and perched on the man's arm. My name's Elias. The man said softly, I'm one of the last Guardians. Liam froze. I've been watching. The Hawk chose you. That means you found the cave, and the journal. Liam nodded slowly. Elias sighed. Then there's no time. Those men agents from a private wildlife firm, they're tracking the Hawks, not to protect them, but to profit from them. That sanctuary holds something they want badly. You and Ash. You may be the only ones who can stop them. Liam's head spun. Why me? Because Ash chose you. Elias said, like that explained everything. They never choose without reason. Elias led Liam deep into the woods that night, this time along a different path. They traveled in silence, Ash soaring just above. Finally, they reached a large tree with strange symbols carved into its bark. Elias placed a hand on one of the carvings and pushed gently. The trunk shifted and a hidden wooden door opened. Inside was a small underground chamber, lit with old lanterns and lined with maps, photos, and shelves of weathered books. This, Elias whispered, is the last Guardian post. On a large table, a map stretched across the surface of the entire forest and surrounding lands. Red markings indicated sightings, tracks, and danger zones. And at the center, circled in dark ink, was a symbol, the sanctuary. It's hidden, deep in the ravine, Elias explained, covered by old growth and protected by the Hawks. Most can't find it, but if Ash leads you again, you'll get there, and you need to get there before they do. Liam stared at the map, a strange mix of fear and purpose settling in his chest. But I'm just a kid, he said. How can I protect it? You're not just a kid, Elias replied. You're the chosen, and you're not alone. He showed Liam a wooden box, locked with the same kind of clasp as the one in the cave. Inside were items left behind by past Guardian stools, notes, old communication devices, and a hand-carved whistle. This whistle calls to the Hawks, Elias said, but only if your heart is clear. Liam took it, holding it gently. The next few days became training. Elias taught him how to navigate without GPS, how to recognize animal signs, how to stay hidden in the wild. Ash followed them constantly, acting like a silent observer, sometimes guiding them toward specific places or signs. They practiced until Liam could move through the forest quietly, without snapping a twig or rustling a branch. And then the message came. Late one evening, a hawk that wasn't Ash landed at the Guardian outpost, a tiny scroll tied to its leg. Elias unrolled it with trembling hands. His face darkened. "They're coming tonight." Liam's heart dropped. "We have to get to the sanctuary before they do. If they reach it first." He didn't finish the sentence. That night, Liam and Elias set out, Ash leading the way. The forest was darker than usual, the trees whispering secrets on the wind. Every crack of a branch made Liam jump. Every owl's hoot felt like a warning. They crossed creeks, climbed hills, and ducked through thick brush. At one point, Ash disappeared from sight, but Elias assured him it meant they were close. "He's scouting ahead." By dawn, they reached a rocky cliffside covered in ivy. Liam was exhausted but determined. Ash suddenly reappeared, circled twice, and dove toward the vines. Liam ran up and pulled them aside, revealing a narrow passageway. They stepped through. The air changed instantly, cooler, fresher, and then the view opened the sanctuary. It was breathtaking, a hidden valley, lush and untouched with towering trees, and waterfalls that shimmered in the morning light. Dozens of hawks soared through the sky, their calls echoing through the canyons. On a stone pedestal in the center stood a massive nest, ancient, powerful-looking, and resting beside it was something glowing faintly. A crystal of some kind. Liam stepped forward, awestruck, but then a sound shattered the stillness. Boots' voices. "They're here!" Elias yelled. Liam spun around. The agents had found the passage. Without thinking, he blew the whistle. At first, nothing happened. Then the sky erupted. Hawks, dozens of them, dove from the cliffs, circling the intruders. Ash landed on Liam's shoulder, his body tense and eyes sharp. The agents tried to run, but the hawks blocked every path. One of them aimed a dart gun, but Ash dove and knocked it from his hand. Liam and Elias used the chaos to grab the crystal and retreat toward the nest. As Liam touched the glowing object, a pulse shot through him, a warmth, a message, something ancient and powerful. He could see flashes in his mind, the sanctuary's creation, the generations of hawks that had guarded it, and the reason they'd chosen him. Because he cared, because he listened, because he saw animals not as trophies or tools but as equals. Ash landed beside him, nuzzling his cheek. The agents fled, overwhelmed and disarmed. Elias stood beside Liam, his face filled with awe. "You did it," he said, but Liam shook his head. "We did it." As the sun rose over the sanctuary, the hawks returned to their perches. Peace had returned, but Liam knew the journey wasn't over. This was just the beginning of something much greater. The morning light stretched across the hidden sanctuary like a blanket of gold. Liam stood quietly beside the ancient hawk's nest, the glowing crystal still warm in his palm. Around him, the sky was alive with the gentle flight of hawks circling, their wings slicing the air like silent protectors. Everything felt still now, peaceful, like the forest itself was finally exhaling. Ash sat calmly on a branch nearby, keeping his golden eyes on Liam. It was hard to believe that just weeks ago, Liam had been an ordinary boy with a quiet life, one ignored by most and bullied by others. Now he stood at the heart of a place, no map recorded, guarded by creatures most people would never even believe could form such a bond with a human. But here he was, and the world had changed. Elias approached slowly, holding an old leather-bound book in one hand and a weathered compass in the other. "You've done what no one else has in decades," he said. "The hawks trust you. The sanctuary accepts you. You're part of this place now." Liam looked down at the crystal again, unsure of what to say. He wasn't a superhero. He wasn't even a scout or a ranger. He was just Liam, but the forest didn't seem to care. Ash didn't care. They had chosen him, flaws and all. Then Elias opened the old book and pointed to a page filled with handwritten names. Dozens of them, maybe more. Some were old and faded. Others looked newer. At the very bottom, Elias had just added a fresh line. "Liam Carter, the chosen guardian." Liam stared at it, stunned. He blinked a few times and then quietly nodded. That's when Elias said something that gave Liam chills. "We're not the only ones protecting sacred ground like this. There are others, guardians all over the world. Many don't know about each other, but they're out there. And now, you're one of them." Liam's head spun. Just a few days ago, he was skipping rocks by a creek and trying to dodge school bullies. Now he was part of something ancient, secret, and powerful. Suddenly, Ash let out a sharp cry and flew off the branch, circling above their heads. Elias and Liam watched as other hawks followed, filling the sky again. "They're celebrating," Elias said. "They know their home is safe again." But even as they smiled, Elias looked concerned. "We've stopped them for now," he said, referring to the men from the private firm. "But people like them never stop for long. They'll regroup. They'll come back, maybe with more people, more tech, even drones." This was just round one. Liam clenched his fists. "Then we'll be ready." Over the next few days, Elias taught Liam more advanced survival skills. They mapped out hidden routes in the forest, buried emergency supplies, and created secret signals with carved symbols only they could understand. Ash trained with Liam every morning. The hawk had become more than a friend. He was a guide, a brother, a partner. They could communicate without words now. Liam could sense when Ash was nearby, could read his moods just by the way he flew. Elias also began recording everything Liam remembered from the cave, the journal, and the sanctuary. One day, he explained, someone else might need this knowledge, just like you did. But there was one last thing. The crystal dot, it sat on a stone pedestal inside the sanctuary now, glowing softly. Elias said it was a heartstone. Ancient tribes believed linked the spirit of animals and nature. It pulsed with life like a heartbeat. They couldn't risk taking it out of the sanctuary. But Elias believed it could connect to others like it around the world. You may have found the first one, he said, but if we can locate the rest, it could change everything. Liam thought of his mom, who still didn't know where he went each evening. He thought of his school, the kids who mocked him, the teachers who ignored him. None of them knew the forest's secret, and maybe they never would. But Liam had found something more meaningful than anything they could imagine. Still, he knew his normal life would have to return eventually. He couldn't live in the forest forever, so Elias gave him a communicator, a small, carved box that, when opened, released a faint whistling sound only the hawks could hear. If Liam ever needed help, they'd come. The night before he returned to his regular life, Liam sat beside Ash under the stars, gazing up at the full moon. I don't want to leave, Liam whispered. Ash leaned in and gently tapped his beak on Liam's shoulder, just like the very first day they met. It felt like a promise. The next morning, Liam returned home. His mother, who had been worried, hugged him tightly. He told her a softened version of the truth he'd been camping with, a friend from school, studying wildlife for a science project. She bought the story, mostly. Back at school, Liam felt different, confident, focused. When his old bullies cornered him at lunch, he didn't flinch. He calmly told them he didn't have time for childish games, and walked away. They didn't follow. Each day after school, Liam would ride his bike to the edge of the woods and wait. Sometimes Ash came, sometimes not. But Liam didn't mind. He knew they were always watching, protecting. One day, a letter arrived at his house with no return address. Inside was a small wooden medallion with the symbol from the sanctuary carved into it. On the back were 4 words, "The world is waiting." Liam held it in his palm, heart pounding. Maybe this wasn't just about one forest. Maybe it was the start of something much bigger. He grabbed his notebook and began to write down everything he knew: the hawks, the cave, the journal, the sanctuary, the agents, the heartstone, because stories were powerful, and someone, somewhere, would need this one. That night, he opened his window and placed the carved box on the ledge. The forest wind blew through his room as he opened it. In the distance, a familiar cry echoed. Ash was coming, and the next chapter of Liam's journey was about to begin.